Yay, guys, yay! That's even a badass name. Your name is so badass.
Go. Yeah. Direct it, make it, make it, make it. Go. Yeah. As I was told.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Connected. I am your host, DJ Is. I got my lovely host, Chloe. Chloe, say what's up, girl.
What's up, is? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. You know, today we're on show 26, and so we're getting up there in our numbers. But first, before we go any further, I want to talk about this weekend, Chloe, because we had a special event that me and you were a part of, which was the Pensado Awards. Shout out to Dave Pensado, who's doing it big, and happy to be a part of that. But I got to see Chloe in a whole nother light this weekend. You know, you were you were all just looking fly, fresh, you know, and I guess you were sipping on some wine, so you were feeling really good. And
Oh, well.
tell us about your experience. I mean, it was cool for me. I got to present an award, but tell me what you had going on.
I mean, you know what it was? Yes, I love my wine. That's no secret. But
Yep.
it's just such a fun event. The energy of the crowd. I love meeting the people, and it's super inspiring because it's like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. You guys are the people that actually make everything happen. And so it's a
Right.
night where you get to get celebrated, and the love and the joy it's just overwhelming in the most amazing way.
It was
And I got to
definitely
play
good.
dress up.
Yeah, you got to put a dress on. I mean, you were looking fresh as heck. But
Who
I
are
think, you
you
know,
in your bow tie?
overall it was good. You know, we got to hang out with our family from the Recording Connection, and
Yeah.
it was just good energy. You know, it was the environment was very rock kind of
Mm-hmm.
oriented, but it was cool. I mean, I got
Mm-hmm.
to see a couple of colleagues that I've known for years, and it was just good to kind of just see those faces again and kind of just recap. Um,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to tell you, I wanted to talk about it a little on the show today because you were doing your thing, and I was happy to see you in that moment having a good time. I
Thank
believe we took
you.
a couple of we took a couple of cool pics,
We
right?
did check it out. Check it out definitely on our Facebook page. We're gonna post them on our social media too, which is what our social media is.
I mean, hit them off with our social media info. Where can they catch us at?
Guys, so simple. Where it is connected.
I mean, across the
Like
board,
across
Twitter,
the board. It just
Facebook, Instagram. So definitely, I always tell them, Chloe, that's a good way to track our day-to-day movement. And also, like, we're just talking about this past weekend with the Pensado Award. So you'll see all kind of lovely pics. I'm sure you're gonna get 1,000 likes on yours because, I mean, you were just doing your thing. I'll probably get.
oh well. I definitely appreciate that. Guys, he was adorable. If nobody can rock a bow tie like Iz can rock a bow tie. Even when he's frozen, which is
I'm gonna
adorable.
keep. um, Anyways, back to the show. We have some really cool, exciting things going on. We got something really cool coming up that we're gonna talk about and bring to you guys. So, without any further ado, Chloe, we want them to get their
Mhm.
notepads, their pens. Um, I
Get
mean,
your
whatever.
mojo.
Get your mojo, whatever you need to take down information. Because, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, what we like to do here at Connected is not just mentor or not just educate, but we kind of like to bring opportunities to the table as well.
Hmm.
So, we want to offer you a full spectrum uh, type of platform that allows everything to connect, kind of like what the show is
Yes.
about. So, we're gonna get up into our grind ops, which are really our job opportunities that we've been bringing since day one. I mean,
What?
I think we're at 130 jobs now, Chloe. Can you believe that?
Should I try to do the math while
I
you introduce this first roundup? I could.
Yeah, I want you to
I'm
do the
asking
math.
for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump up into this grind up, but yeah, definitely
You
do the
do.
math on that. Make sure I'm correct. Um, so first up to bat, we are in the field of live audio engineer. This is in Charlotte, NC. All right, so know your abbreviations because I abbreviate all my states. All right, NC. So, uh, you know,
It's
um,
just
I keep it simple, man. I'm just a simple kind of cat. So, um, So here we go, guys. This is a grind up again in the live audio engineering field. This is live music venue seeking front of house engineer for weekly acts. Now, anytime you see FOH, that's front of
Mm-hmm.
house. All right, so
Front of
keep that in
house.
mind. Candidate will be responsible for live bands, computer playback, recording, and backup of show production files. Engineer will be responsible for working with production departments to facilitate sound production needs during technical rehearsals and during the run of the show. Candidate must have knowledge of basic theatrical directions and terms. You got to know your lingo. Engineer must be able to work evenings and weekends as needed. Um, and that I like that last detail was must be available to work evenings and weekends. Because I'm gonna tell you, this weekend I sure enough didn't want to get in my car and drive to LA. But you know what?
But you
I know
but you
I,
did.
but I did, and I knew I was looking forward to seeing Cloie because I knew Cloie was going to be in all her glory. So I wanted to see that. So I got in my whip and I rode. I rode. I came. I
I,
came.
I mean, he came and he looked pretty, and he brought pretty with
Yeah.
him. So
Yes,
like,
I brought my lady. So let's dive into this. This is a very detailed kind of grind up. I mean,
mhm,
you know, one of the things I've experienced in just working with different front end house guys is you never know what you're gonna get, Chloe. You might get a dude
right,
who's anal. You might get a dude who's super cool. You might get a dude who can take in um, ideas and how you like to sound. But I think anybody who's aspiring to be a front end house engineer, I think you should always come from a place of being humble, willing to listen, and really
yes,
knowing how to talk to the artists. Because one of the things in front of house, you're going to be dealing with artists all
hmm
the time, and you never know what kind of artist you're going to be dealing with. You might be dealing with somebody who's a jerk. You might be dealing with an artist who's just super cool, like, hey man, I was wondering if you could,
hmm
can I get a little more of this? Can I? And I think just being able to be neutral in this particular job setting is kind of to me what allows the job to kind of get done in a cool way, and you're
right.
able to build relationships. You never know. You might do so good and well by an artist that artist wants to get your info at the end of the night, like,
It's
yo, I
true.
need you. I need you to travel with me. I need you to come do my sound. So those are the things I always stress because, Chloe, I've met an array of live
I
front of
can't
house
even
engineers,
imagine.
and I'm gonna tell you, 9 times out of 10, they want to get in and get out. They don't want to hear anything you got to say. They just they kind of want to hit the preset button on you and give you the sound they give to everybody. So I think that's a
Okay.
good thing, especially for our recording connection students, that are working in the field in real time. I'm sure they're absorbing as much information as they can on that side. But like I said, in these kind of things, you want to be a people person. You
Yes.
want to be cool and you want to love what you're doing. Um,
Yes.
Another detail in
Yes.
this is you'll be responsible for working with production departments to facilitate sound production. So again, you'll be working with other people. And
And wearing
how
lots of
important
hats. So many
and
hats.
yes, yeah, wearing lots of hats, definitely. And you'll be doing technical rehearsals uh,
hmm
during the run of the show. And I think too, we always say it's so important to know your gear, right? I mean, that's something we've been stressing on the show, Chloe. You got to know your gear. So when you
hmm
get into these venues and you look at something that might be foreign to you, and next thing you know, you're kind of like you're slowing down the workflow because you got to get on YouTube and go to a video that tells you how to get through on this piece of equipment.
Right.
So you want
When
to
you
do
could have
your
done your
homework.
homework. Yes.
You got to do your homework ahead of time. And really, at the end of the day, if you're an engineer, be an engineer. Know your craft. Know what's out there. Know what folks are working on. Know your latest technology. Know your latest
Right.
plugins. Know all that stuff. Because you got
And
to
do
be a
your
student.
research too on the people that you're going to be working with. Be proactive in that regard.
Yeah.
Because you do your research on the people, that's also got to be a clue in as to what you may encounter.
Right.
And if not,
And yeah, exactly. And I'm looking at another key thing in this particular detail is computer playback. For those of you that don't know what computer playback is, I'm going to break it down really quick. So let's say an artist shows up with a band, but they got backgrounds, um, they got horns, and they can't really facilitate that with actual people. So they use computer playback to actually play those sounds during the show.
hmm,
And that can be either Digital Performer or another software program called Pro Tools. So you definitely have to be experienced in regards to what computer playback is. That can be a really, really intense gig, and you got to have most of the time, the playback guys I've met, they have their own setup, they got their own
Right.
rigs, and those rigs run anywhere from 50 to 90K. That's how intense it gets. So you definitely got to know your ins and outs on that one, and you'll be dealing with show production files, the backups, backing
Right.
everything up, storing everything. So you got to be, like you said, Chloe, you're going to be wearing a whole lot of hats.
Right. And
So
organized.
yeah, and we always talk about not underperforming, right? You got to get in there.
Over.
You got to get in there and kick ass is what you got to do at the end of
The
the day.
most
So,
confident. Mm-hmm.
that is our first grind up. Again, that's live audio engineer in Charlotte. Um, so Chloe,
Yes.
before we get into this next grind up,
Mm-hmm.
we have something really cool going on today with our show. We have a guest, Chloe. We got
Oh, we got a
we,
what?
we got a special guest that we get to talk about that has been able to, land a
Hustle.
gig in real
Mm-hmm.
time through the recording connection process,
Mm-hmm.
through the mentoring process, and who was able to get out there and make it happen. I'm going to let you introduce her, Chloe. Let's introduce our wonderful guest today.
Guys, if you're wondering who is this lovely blonde face that we keep cutting to, I am so happy to introduce Madam. This is Alexa Cooper, guys, who's just
Say
back
what's up,
from
y'all. Say what's
Finland.
up. Let's get a round of applause. Now, I want to highlight something about Alexa Cooper. She's um, definitely been able to get out there and make something happen and create opportunity for herself. Who's
Hmm.
doing lighting for ASAP Rocky, which is, a huge name in the game. And I kind of just, we're happy to have you, Alexa. And
So
I
happy.
want to hear your story. We want to hear your story on how you were able to get out there, make it happen, and what your process was, from the recording connection process, the mentoring process, and how
Hmm.
beneficial
Hmm.
that information was to you in getting in this world, in this environment, and making something happen. Talk to us, man.
Yeah,
Love it.
100%. Yeah, it was massive. The recording connections play as far as like where I've been able to get today. Like I was living in Florida and I met a guy who owned a studio in Vancouver and he invited me to come check it out and I was like, okay, why not? You meet connections,
Hmm.
may as well try to go for it. And then he was in the program and told me about the program and I was like, you know what? That sounds really awesome. I'll give it a try. And I got into the recording connection, did it, and in the studio I met so many amazing connections. And through one connection that I met there is the one who mentioned this job of doing live events and doing sound for live events or doing lighting, doing video. And so it was through that connection in the studio that I got my job. And it was through a chance connection in Florida that I found the studio that does RRF. And
Nice,
I think as far as my process through it is to always ask questions and always
nice.
be
Yes.
attentive
And
because
and
it's
that's
And
easy to go in and like, yeah, sorry, what?
no, no. Go ahead, go ahead.
well, yeah.
Okay.
Well, because your
Oh yeah,
rise has
it's
been
easy. It's
you're like a meteor rise. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Don't be modest,
But it's
girls. Put
easy
it
to go
out
in
there.
and
People
you
want to
get
hear.
And it too. It's really cool, Alexa. Is a lot of times, we get people that ask us, does it happen a certain way? Like, is it about networking? Is it about your skill? Is it about, you know, all these other things? And I like to say, it's really about everything, right? Because
Hmm.
you can only
yeah.
take advantage of these opportunities really at the end of the day if you know what you're doing. Like you
Yes.
can meet whoever, you
Hmm.
can get lucky, you can get plugged in, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to perform, right? You got to be able to get in there and
Yeah,
do something um,
100%.
that applies to your lane and your job. And when you come across cats like a ASAP Rocky, like that's prime time. What I mean? That's
I
prime
mean,
time. You get in there and you got to be able to function. You got to be able to keep things moving, and you got to be great at what it is you're doing. And to me,
Sure.
that just comes with being a student, having a love for it, and really knowing it. And one of the things that's interesting to me too is I know that
yeah.
this particular field is really male dominant driven. What's some
Well,
are there any challenges that you run into in that environment because you might be the only female, or there's not a whole lot of you that are doing what you're doing? I mean, what are some of the challenges that that you face?
Some of the challenges, I'd say, since I am put in a position of leadership, I'm the crew
Mm-hmm.
chief for lighting for ASAP Rocky. Sometimes, every now and then, there's guys who don't want to listen to a girl, and they
Mm.
kind of like to act like they know everything. And it's like, you know what, you may be really good at what you do, but I'm the one who's here who knows exactly
Yes.
what we need to do for this show, so you need to listen to
Yes.
me. And so I've had to take a position of like being very blunt with people and
Mm-hmm.
having to be like, nope, this is how it is and this is what you're going to do. And if you're not, give me the next guy. And
Do
so
you,
Nice.
okay, so then, wait, I have a follow-up to that then. Have you found that when that happens, do you get that backlash that we as women can so often get that, oh my gosh, she's a bitch, she's this, when that's not true at all? Does that ever happen or has that happened?
not really for me. It's like, I think
Yeah,
more so people are like, oh, she is serious. And no, sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes you have to prove yourself a little bit more as a woman. But like, as soon as I do, or like I get to that point, they're like, okay, she's cool. It's
yeah.
usually like
And
they'll snap and realize.
let's let this
Yeah.
world change. Let's let this world
And
change.
you,
Well, what advice do you have for like job seekers, Alexa?
As a girl?
And just no, well, yes, but also just as a human being and
As a
creature in
human.
this world.
As a human, for job seekers, well, to touch note on the job you guys were just talking about of doing front of
Mm-hmm.
house live sound, what I would personally do if I didn't know what they did, or like the soundboard that they're using, something that you could do is go find somewhere, find out what they're using, what board, what equipment, and then go learn about that equipment. Like is like
Sure.
you were saying, but you can go somewhere that actually has the board and sit down with it and be like, okay, these are what the buttons mean, and get the feel for it, and like put that extra effort to learn what it is they're trying to have you do.
right.
And
Yeah.
And that's dope
yeah,
because
and
one of
yeah,
the things we always talk about here, Alexa, is being a student of what you love, being a student of your craft. And what I've found is when you work with people, or even myself, being a student in your craft means that you do the homework, you
Yes.
get
mm-hmm,
as much information as you possibly can, so that when you do get this opportunity, you show up and you knock it out of the park. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, even looking at your story, Alexa, it's like, being in an environment and just so happen to meet somebody and somebody recognizing something about you and giving you a shot is, you can't really, that just doesn't strategically happen. That's something that just out of
No,
out
it's
of
not. That's not a
osmosis.
coincidence.
Nah, yeah, right. It's not a coincidence. So it's like, when you're, I think, in the process of perfecting what it is you do, you run into opportunities like that, and then you find yourself
yeah,
doing lighting, being a decision maker, and working with other people. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on is we talk about just the different dynamics of people, right? Like for instance, you said because you are a woman, sometimes people kind of want to take it a step further as to
Mm-hmm.
chain of command or listening to you, and
mm-hmm,
just knowing the dynamics of people and how to deal with people. In a woman in your position, I'm sure that that's tested all the time. But I still
Oh,
think, like you said, sometimes you got to be firm with folks, and then some
mm-hmm,
folks you got to be cool with, and you got to be humble. You got to still be able to
right.
listen. And knowing when
yeah,
to switch those gears is crucial. And I can tell just by what you said, like, you know how to switch those gears. Like, when it's time to put the foot down, this is what it
Put
is,
it down.
fellas.
you
If
put
if
it down.
not, if not, send me the next guy. And
Yeah.
really that's just how it goes. And when I look at just what you've been able to do with your journey right now, and just I can tell where you're at mentally, like you're a sharp one. You know what I'm saying? You're a
Oh, for
sharp one. Like
sure.
you definitely, were
I'm gonna jump in for
mentored
just one
mentored
second.
very
I'm gonna
well.
jump
Go
in for
ahead, Chloe,
one
jump in.
second because I want to talk about that. We touched on it, and you're like, oh well, yeah, okay. Modesty aside, yes, let's all be humble and wonderful. And now let's celebrate you. Let's talk about this crazy rise. Like you have excelled in such a short amount of time. How did you do that? And how could somebody
Sure.
else do that?
Well, I think a lot of the elements that you guys are just talking about is knowing how to switch those dynamics. When it's time to put your foot down, do it. When it's time to be completely humble and learn something new, do it. Look for those opportunities, because going in, there's so much to know in whatever field you're going in. If you want to do live
Mm-hmm.
sound, if you want to do lights, if you want to do like, if you want to perform, anything, there's always more to learn. You don't know it all. So you need to be able to willing to learn it. And even me in a position of crew chief, I don't know the name of half the lights that I'm working with. So I have to constantly be learning, and like I have all the latest apps on my phone that has all the information about the lights, and like you just have to be willing to put that extra step forward. It's kind of like
Sure.
in the school, like if you're not going to be proactive, you're not going to learn much. You can sit
Right.
there and like do the stuff online, you can do that, but if you're not trying to get better, you're not going to get better. But if you are trying, you are going to get better. And that's something like for me, I'm constantly trying to get better, constantly trying to find new opportunities, constantly trying to network. Like
Right.
even the way I got this job was through a conversation I had in Vancouver with somebody like out of the blue. He was just like, "Who are you? What do you do?" And I'm like, "I do this. I'm moving to LA." He's like, "Well, I work with ASAP Rocky. We're going to get you a job when you come down here." And I was like, "All right, sounds good." And so it's
Nice.
just like being willing to connect with people, being willing to learn, and wanting to learn
Nice.
are like
That's dope.
major.
That's
Um,
I have
one
one
thing
more
I'll
question, the follow up from that, real
go ahead.
quick, because we all have it as artists. We are all like these feeling beings. And every so often, like, especially when you're just starting out, the seed of doubt can be real,
Oh,
right? So how do you conquer that committee when it tries to come in and sabotage your glory?
That's actually a very natural brain response when you're growing, when you're about to
Hmm.
like break through a threshold and like do something and beyond your comfort zone and become better. It's so natural for that to come in. So I think one way that I've trained myself is when that happens, I recognize that, okay, this is me about to do better than I've ever done. And
Ha!
so be able to like be like, okay, thanks for letting me know. You change that signal from telling you to like give up to that signal being like, okay, I'm going in the right direction.
Yes.
And so it's just
Nice,
retraining
nice.
the way you think about that response pattern.
Fight or
Dope, dope.
flight, yeah.
Well, Alexa, thank you so much. I hope you'll be able to sit with us through the show.
Because we
It's
didn't even talk about Finland. We didn't talk about Finland. She just got back yesterday from Finland. She's going to
yeah,
tell
we
us a
want
curse word.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We want to know some curse words in Finland, but we're gonna move off into our next grind out. But I just want to say, Alexa, that it's a pleasure having you, and
Uh,
your story, your journey is very inspiring to us as well, and to our viewers. I think it's
yeah.
important for them to see somebody who's just like them, who's out there in the
Hmm.
field looking for opportunity, understands work ethic and what's required, the sacrifice, and really just being able to be a student of your craft and what you love. And I think you're a prime example of that. And we're happy to have
Yes.
you on our show today. And thank you for making the time.
Oh,
Um,
thank you so
so
much for having me.
absolutely. Now, if you want, you can hang with us. We're happy to have you hang and just kind of
Love to
chill
have
out.
you.
You might actually have some comments on these next grind ops. So if you can,
All
sit
right.
tight with us. All right.
Yeah,
So
down.
we're gonna move up into grind op number two. Chloe,
Number
I'm gonna
two,
let you go. I'm gonna let you take this one. Go for it.
I'm going to take it. I got it. So, grind on number two. It is for a radio assistant producer in Denver, Colorado. Shout out to Denver. It is an XM radio station seeking an assistant producer for weekly shows. The candidate will assist in developing topic outlines for invited guests, basic audio production, preferably Pro Tools, deadline oriented, comfortable with organizational tasks, and it's an ideal opportunity for a radio graduate or an audio person that's comfortable with working in a fast-paced environment under strict deadlines. I'm going to just stress the word deadline has been said twice now.
Already, huh?
It's been said twice, and there's not been so many detailed points here, right?
Um, yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say that. I think this grind up is definitely a great opportunity for our recording connection students as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're looking for, a radio graduate, audio that is comfortable working in a fast-paced environment. I know our students are around that every day, through the
Right?
mentorships. I mean, how were you through that kind of with your mentor, Alexa? Just being in the field and kind of just learning on a day to day and being in that environment.
Yeah, like learning every day from my mentor. Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, there you
Yeah.
go, guys. I mean,
I was
I
you,
pretty,
mean,
yeah.
you're pretty what?
I was pretty fortunate. Like my mentor, I'm sure everyone in the program is awesome. Maybe I'm biased because he was my mentor, but I think he was super awesome on it. He could do things so quickly, and it's like if you don't ask questions and like get in there and try to learn, it just flies by so quick. So there's always
Yeah.
opportunities to learn.
Well, I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and brag. That's how the Recording Connection does it. I mean, I don't know
I
any other
mean,
I don't know any other institution doing it like the Recording Connection, straight up. And and I've been around all of them. So shout out to the Recording
Yeah.
Connection again, because that's I think this is a great opportunity for our
to
students
bring
there.
goodness into the world.
Yeah.
Oh man.
One of the things, especially in this grind op, is very detailed. Like I said, preferably Pro Tools. So
Yes.
for those of you who are very comfortable with, your um, digital performer or what is it? I mean, Ableton Live's cracking now. Reasons
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
asking for Pro Tools, so you definitely want to know.
Branch out.
Uh, you
Get
want to
out.
know you want to know Pro Tools in this particular grind up.
And I
Um,
also want to go back to the whole deadline thing right quick.
mm,
Deadline. Deadline. Strict deadline. That is a person, yes, you are not just an organized person, the most organized person, the person that goes above and beyond to be organized, not just for yourself, but you also have a mind to other people's schedules, especially when you have to collaborate. Deadline is not something to be played with, it is not something to be taken lightly, right? It's not like being late in LA where everybody's just like, oh, but 5 minutes is on time. No, no. Your
right,
deadline was at 4, it's 4:01, you're late.
right, and
Can I
that's
add a little something to that?
go for it.
Yes.
In my industry that I work with, the live events, if you're not at least 15 minutes early and before everything needs to happen, you're late. Like
Yeah,
there's a time things need to be ready before that in case something goes wrong between that. You need to be ready and on top of it.
Are you
and
all
here
listening?
and
Are
here
you
and here's
listening?
another one. If you're 20 minutes late in my road, you're done. You're out of here. And that's just how it goes. Another thing too with this grind out, Chloe, is it's very technical, but yet it's very creative. So you know how we've been
Mhm.
talking about like some of these grind ops require two sides of you. They require the very
Yes.
technical and structured part of you, and then they also require the creative. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is in what I've come to experience is really only one of these components really exists in people because you're incredibly creative and talented, but you're not structured, you're not
Uh-huh.
prompt, you're not on time, or you're
Uh-huh.
super structured, prompt, on time, but you ain't creative.
And rigid as the day is
Yeah.
long.
So in this particular grind out with being radio assistant producer, it's they're asking produce weekly shows, developing topics, outlines for invited guests.
So it sounds like they want your input for sure, which is
They
lovely.
definitely want your input, but you're also dealing with guests. So,
Mhm.
you got to be kind of you got to be a people's person. You got to be, you got to know how to get the conversation cracking. You got to emote energy and just cool
Mhm.
and just really chill.
Mhm.
So, um 9 times out of 10 people either possess one or the other. So, in this grind up, you want to possess both. You want to
You
be
have to.
structured on point, but you want to be creative. Um
There's no
so
one to let your hair down.
Right, right. So with that being said, I hope you took all those wonderful notes down. By the way, get your questions ready. We got 3 more grind ops to cover, so get your questions in now because when we hit this Q&A, we want to be able to answer all your guys' questions. We even want Alexa to take on some questions if you guys might have some questions for her.
Please
So with
do. And of course, you
with
can
that,
find us on social media. It is connected.
absolutely, there you go. Moving on to grind op number 3. This is in the field of cinematography and editor, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm going to just say the whole state instead of saying FL, Florida. Um, this is a web-based marketing company looking to create promo videos for online marketing and web series. Candidate will have creative freedom in the development of the project, strong communication skills and leadership experience preferred. That's a huge one.
Mhm.
Candidate must have a reel displaying promotional material. Now,
Mhm.
you'll be surprised how many folks uh, are actually cinematographers and editors and don't have a sizzle reel.
That doesn't
So
make any sense.
doesn't make any sense. So what you want to do is make sure you have a reel for this opportunity. And like I say, a reel is something that you can show that is a dynamic piece about you. And what it does
Yes.
is it eliminates you from having to talk about yourself
Thank
We
you.
always say you can show them better than you can tell them.
It is your
This is
visual
something.
calling card, is what it
It's your
is.
visual calling card, and
Yes.
I can look at someone's sizzle reel and tell whether or not they're dope or whack, straight up. Like, from your cuts to your edits to your splice to your angles to everything. Like, those are the things you want to highlight in your sizzle reel. So you definitely want to have one for this grind up. Um, Also,
Also, can I
too.
point out for this one the fact that they say candidate will have creative freedom in the development of the project. That's
Mm,
huge.
that's super huge. That's super
Freedom
huge.
freedom is one of the most terrifying things to folks in this world. That
Yeah,
means that you got to be your own boss and your own judge and jury, right?
absolutely. And another thing too, I want to highlight strong communicational skills, because a lot of folks struggle with how they communicate, especially in the
Mhm.
working environment and leadership experience. The thing too with leadership is only felt when you have confidence, because you have to have
Mhm.
confidence to be a leader. You got to give people the impression that you really know what you're talking about. Um,
Yes.
and you have to, when you're in a leadership role, you're dealing with various people, and you got to know how to really promote and encourage teamwork,
Yes.
uh, team strategies, allow people to get their ideas out, and then you got to know how to put it all together. You got to know how to assemble in a leadership role,
I
and
want to
that
throw
all
this
comes.
also to Alexa too, because I mean,
Mm.
Alexa, how do you implement that? How do you lead from love as opposed to, how do you inspire people in a way that makes them want to follow and listen to you?
Mm. I think a big starting place is to really know what you're talking about. So, like,
Well,
Yes.
figure out your
Yeah.
responsibilities, know what you need to be doing,
Yes.
know what
oh,
other people are doing, and also I like to recognize when people's strengths instead of seeing like somebody can't do this. It's like, okay, they are good at this. Where will they be good? And like just kind of figuring out who's good at what and put them somewhere where it's going to help them thrive instead of putting
Yeah.
somewhere where
yes.
like they can't do math very well. Why you have them do math?
Yeah.
You
And
need to be able
that
to be
that
like,
that
look, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that lends itself to, like I said, knowing how to assemble the team, knowing being able to point out what people are great out, in a way that doesn't make people uncomfortable as well, because you can't ever be like, you know what, you're great on burgers, get off of fries. You
Please, your
gotta know,
fries suck. All of
yeah,
them cold in the middle.
you
Stop
you
it.
gotta you gotta know how to address people's too. So I think that's key. In any leadership role, you gotta really know how to deal with folks, know how to talk to
Yes.
people, and know how to read a room, and you'll deal with sensitive people, you'll deal with people who take things personal, and you just gotta know how to talk past that. Go ahead, Chloe. You look
And
like you put
also,
you put the finger up on me. Go ahead. Go ahead. I know you
and
got something.
also and also a big part of being a leader is, I think, is the ability is to offer constructive criticism, but from an inspiring place. And in the business world, they do that thing called the sandwich compliment, right, where you lead with the strength, you put what could be better in the middle, like the meat, or if you're vegetarian, perhaps the tofurkey, and on the other side of it you end it with a compliment, right? And that also from leading from a place of love. That's it. That's my mic.
You
That's
know what,
penis.
Chloe? Thank you. Now we're hungry. Now we're hungry, Chloe. All right.
Hungry for success.
Also, too, guys, don't forget you can email us.
Mhm.
Okay, Chloe, hit them off with that email address in case they want to send stuff to us, resumes, reels. I mean, whatever they got. I want them to know where they can send it to us.
Demos. Guys, so you can send it to us at connected@rrfedu.com. That's it.
There you go. Okay,
Connected at
moving on. Yeah. Oh, the robot's coming out
rrfedu.com.
in her. All right, moving off
Sorry.
to grind up number 4. This is in the field of audio engineering, and this is in Austin, Texas. Again, I hope Chloe. We had a person a couple of shows ago who's like, "Are you gonna have any job ops in Texas?" So I hope they're tuning in today, because we got one. Again,
All
this
my
is in
exes.
all right. Again, this is in audio engineering. Independent studio looking for an audio engineer for writing sessions for indie labels. Audio engineer will be responsible for recording, burning discs, upload audio for A&Rs. There will be live engineering opportunities available as well. Live engineering experience is a plus but not required. I'm gonna go ahead and say it's required, because you should, as an engineer, you should know both sides of the spectrum. Candidate must have at least 1 year of studio experience, ideal for apprentices. And this is another grind up that I think is great for our recording connection students.
Mm-hmm.
I like to
Mm-hmm.
pride ourselves in putting people in a real-time environment, kind of like Alexa. Alexa was in a real-time environment,
Sure enough.
um, and got to see what it's like in real time, and get experience and just learn the room. So that's definitely something that could be great for our students. I mean, I like to stress that they said live engineering wasn't required, but I think with any engineer, you want to know both sides of the spectrum because that's
Sure.
what you do. You're an engineer. Um,
Sure. Because how
you'll
awful
be
would it be for them to be like, hey, by the way, so we got to do this today or blah blah blah, and you're like, oh, but the that's not what it said, and then I don't do that. That's
right, right.
not what I do.
Um, and you'll be, some of these details, like I mentioned, are recording, burning discs, and uploading audio for A&Rs. So you'll be dealing with, label personnel, like an A&R who puts a project together, who reaches out to the studios, the engineers, the producers. So you'll be dealing with them. So you gotta know just that language and how to deal with
Mm-hmm.
those folks. Um, Also too. You'll be writing sessions for indie labels. So you'll be working with folks that, are putting rooms together. So you want to be, up to speed on various rooms in Texas, Austin, Texas. You want to know what these studios are working with so you can get in there and fly. Simple as that. It's
Well,
really
wait,
not.
can we just I have one question on this point. It makes me think, Alexa. So with recording, we just talked about like real world, real time environment, all that sort of stuff. Did
Yeah.
attending recording connection inside a real recording studio atmosphere, did that prepare you at all for the business and how it works, and how did that play a part?
Definitely. I think a big part of like as far as learning in the studio, learning about signal flow is
Yeah.
incredibly important for like whether it's live or whether it's in the studio. And so learning how all that works and how like all the cables like communicate with each other and all of that. Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. And the environment in general, because like you guys are saying, you meet a whole bunch of different kinds of people from all over the
Hmm.
spectrum. So you got to kind of learn how to meet them and be able to communicate in a way that they understand and that you can
Right.
understand them because everybody essentially speaks a different language. We all speak differently, and so you got to learn how to be able to like understand people. And so in the
No
studio,
doubt.
yeah, I just met, people come in to record hip hop. There'd be people in there singing opera. There'd be people speak in there doing indie stuff. It's like different kinds of people speak differently and are differently. So you just gotta know how to be able to vibe with everybody.
You got to know how to navigate. You got to know
Yep.
how to navigate. Um, so we're going to move off into our last grind up of the day. This is
Hmm.
our last one, guys. This is in the field of post production editor
Hmm.
in Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta,
Guys, it's
Georgia.
popping in Atlanta right now. It is, I mean, recording connection, film connection, like all y'all pay attention because Atlanta is just like with opportunities. Guys, go ahead.
Here we go. They're seeking an editor for a pilot show. NDA is required. Chloe, go ahead and break down an NDA again. We did last week. We want to break it down again this week. Go for it.
And may we do it every week lest we forget. An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. It is something that you sign stating that you can't talk about it, or you could get sued. You probably will lose your job, and that also applies to social media. I'm going to say it again. It also applies to social media.
Yep. So don't get caught slipping. Don't get caught chatting and talking. Keep it
Facebook doesn't need
private.
to know that bad. Mm-mm.
Yeah, keep it
Hmm.
private. So
And
that's an end.
if you're not sure, ask. Ask the people. Be like, is it okay for me to post a picture? Is
Yep.
it okay for me to post a status? And maybe it is. But if you don't
Right.
know, like you could be crossing a line you don't want to cross.
Yeah. So NDA does not mean no dogs allowed. So
No.
those are the wrong words.
No.
Um, so also too, candidate will join an experienced team to edit and put together the show. So he'll be working with team players. He'll be dealing with the team. Candidate
Mm-hmm.
must be able to adapt to specific workflow and be able to work independently under strict deadlines. I like the word workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Alexa, in your environment, what does workflow look like for you?
Oh my gosh, workflow.
Oh, I
Well,
love that
that
question,
depends
Eve.
on where I am. Workflow for me can get extremely hectic because we're working with very strict deadlines. Like we show up, we've got half an hour or how much for set change to get everything set up and ready, and Rocky is standing right there ready to go on and perform. So it's like if you're not doing your job and you're not there and done and ready by the time he's ready, then it's not okay. So
Mm-hmm.
workflow can be really intense at times, and then once it's set, once it's good, you just chill and it's all good. And so it's kind of like it fluctuates. Sometimes there will be so much to do all at once and so much to think about, and then there's nothing to do but sit back and enjoy the show. Um,
Right.
Sure.
so
Right.
workflow for me is constantly changing.
You know what too. You know what today I want to do, Chloe. Instead of jumping to our
Well,
Q&A, I
hit
think
me.
I think we can hit Alexa with questions. I mean, she's a guest that
Sure.
obviously we have folks looking at and watching, and I'm sure they got questions that they want to ask her. But I think
Sure.
I think we can kind of focus on a couple of things. We always talk about the sacrifice and the demand that some of these career paths come with. What has been some of those sacrifices for you, Alexa, as far as the commitment, the time, the days you might be gone, holidays, weekends?
Sure.
I mean, what are some of
Yeah.
those things you've had to encounter as far as just the sacrifice and the work, just the workload?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is sleep. And
Yes.
have to sacrifice quite a lot of sleep. Like in Finland, I was there. They asked me to come 2 days before I had to fly out. And so I had to get ready, and I was working those 2 days too. So I had to speed up and not sleep a whole lot. I fly out. I have to stay up all night with the lighting designer until 7 in the morning, making sure everything's
Wow.
okay. And then I have to be back at 8:30 in the morning, do a couple things, go back at 11, sleep for a few hours, come back. I didn't sleep for 2 nights while I was in Finland. So
See
sleep
I
that
is,
mean,
and that just what you said, Alexa, that's so important for our viewers to understand because a lot of times we're not dealing with banker's hours. We're not. It ain't an eight to
no.
five,
Eight
nine
hours
to
is a
five thing.
luxury.
Yeah,
Please.
it's a luxury, and
yeah,
to I think for them to hear someone like you really speak on that, talk about it, kind of lets them know like, okay, man, when I apply for these opportunities, man, there's a lot I have to factor in and keep in mind
Mm-hmm.
because
mm,
a lot of times it ain't going to be your perfect scenario. It ain't going to be 5 days out of the week, weekends off.
No.
It's a lot of dedication that is
yeah,
required from you and sacrifice. And just hearing you
sure.
say that, I mean, going to sleep at 7 a.m. It's like, man,
yeah,
that grave? Are those graveyard hours? No, it's like
Yeah.
that's like a 14, 16 hour day.
yeah.
With a
It's
time
like
change.
someone's like, I work 40 hours a week. I'm like, oh, I remember my first part-time job.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Wait. I want to go
Yeah,
back to what you said about the questions and like asking questions, right?
yeah,
Of course, there are always people that are going to take it to the extreme in terms of
sure.
questions. There has got to be, what would you say is the line between asking the right amount of questions and then transitioning into pain in the assdom?
You mean like when you're asking the people you're working with?
Yeah, like if you don't know something, yes, ask questions up until what point? At what point
Yeah.
is it just enough?
I think that can also be different for it depends on who you're working with, because some
Yeah.
people are like more happy to answer any and every question you may have, and usually they'll make that very clear. They'll be like, anything
Mhm.
you have, you let me know. And then it's just like if there's anything that you can figure out on your own, if you can
Right.
Google it, if you can like figure it out, do it. If there's not time and you need to ask, do it. So I don't think there's a clear line in
Sure.
particular because everybody's different as far as like what they think is a pain in the ass.
Sure.
But I think if it's something that you can figure it out, do the work, do your own homework, figure it out.
So lead first with being proactive, follow up with a question if all else fails.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Yeah.
And especially, well, in my industry too, like when you're coming in and you don't know much about it, it's actually better to ask too many questions than not enough
Sure.
because like you're dealing with things where like every single day somebody's life is basically in your hands. Like you're holding these massive lights above a stage where if they fall on somebody, they're heavy and someone could lose their life. So if you're
Yeah.
dealing with stuff in that, you need to make damn sure that you're doing it right. So
Right.
questions are really important in that instance. So yeah, I don't know where that line is, but I say ask the questions.
Right, right.
And if someone gets
Um,
annoyed, they'll let you
hey,
know. They'll be like, okay, man, hold on.
hey,
Enough.
hey,
Give me like 5.
Alexa, I want to ask you one last question before we sign out here. For someone who is looking and aspiring to do exactly what it is you do, and lighting for, a name such as a ASAP Rocky or anybody in that at that level, what are some of the challenges or what we might say, you know, roadblocks that you've had to encounter and also work around?
Sure. Ooh,
Um,
workarounds.
roadblock. Work around. Well, for me, like it's been pretty like a meteor, so I've been kind of like shot straight into it. So I haven't had many, but it's also like I almost had an opportunity to tour with Gwen Stefani, and I had to like be okay with the fact that it filled up really quickly and I didn't get
Yeah.
it. And so
Mm,
that's like being proactive and like working really hard, but then knowing that you're not going to get every opportunity, but still
Sure aren't.
striving for it and
nice.
still trying your best and doing everything you can. And because roadblocks, they're not stopping you, they're just repositioning you
Yeah.
Right,
It's
right.
like
to
what you were
get
saying
where you want to
earlier.
get. Yeah. And like now I'm probably going to go on tour with Dylan Francis here soon. And that's the nice thing about my company is they do all the major tours. Like
Mm,
everyone, you name it, they do it pretty much. And so, but it's knowing that through that, you need to work your ass off to be given those opportunities because they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to send just anybody on a tour with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, her team knows what they're doing. You
right.
need to be able
Yes.
to
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
and
I
not
mean,
be
and
not take it personally. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, 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 yes. We talk about that a lot, like separating what is like your own, you know what, and versus somebody else, and not letting feelings get involved because it's just
Yes.
business. It's
Yeah.
Yeah,
just business.
exactly. We'll have moments where the crew were like at each other's necks because of a huge deadline, but then
Hmm.
afterwards we just laugh it off. We're like, "Ooh, we did it. Great." Don't
Right.
take it personally. You had to do what you had to do in that moment.
Yes.
And if you don't get a job, it's not a personal thing. There was probably just somebody who knew more than you or could do it
Yes.
better or they
Yeah.
saw it in somebody else. Doesn't mean you don't have it. Don't
Yeah.
take it
And
personally.
that's the thing too. One of the things I like to say is for all of us, you never stop learning. Whether it's somebody
Yes.
has a better way or you have a better way, you never stop learning.
Yeah.
And I've been in those environments where the whole team, it's hectic. People got frustrations. We're all
Emotions are
pushing for
running
the same.
high.
We're all
Hmm.
pushing for the same thing. And when you're dealing with artists, at the end of the day, it's all about their presentation, and you can never compromise the presentation with your own personal feelings about something. And you just got to get in there and execute. And
Hmm.
that's what it's about at the end of the day. You have to execute. Um, so with that, guys, I want to thank you again, Alexa, for joining us today and hanging out for the entire show. Thank you for
She
giving us
did.
48 minutes of your time. Also, too, guys, another thing that's super important, obviously, with these grind ops is where you apply for the jobs. All right, so
Yes.
you want to make sure you apply for the jobs at www.rrfedu.com at Connected. All right, that's the only place you can get these opportunities and gigs. All right, and obviously through our show that me and Chloe come and do for you every Monday.
100%.
Um,
Wait, Alexa, if we want to find out more about you, where can we find you? Like on social media or anything like that?
Social media, I'm most active on Instagram and I post a lot
do
of
it for the
stories.
gram. Do it for the gram.
Go for the gram. My name on Instagram is Flowmotion, FLOWMOTION
I like
_sound.
that. I like
Yeah.
flow motion. That's
Consider
dope.
yourself
Um,
followed right now. It's happening.
right on. Well, guys, shout out to our connected team, Mike, Howie, Brian, that strategically make this happen every Monday for us. We couldn't do it without you guys.
At
Um,
all.
Tune in with us next week as we're here every Monday. Don't forget to catch us on our social media as well at It's Connected all across the platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And have a great week. Get out there and grind. Chloe, anything you want to send them off with before we close out?
I think I did the math right. I hope I did. I think it's 1:30. Job
There you
ops, does
go.
that sound right?
We're at
1:30?
130 job ops. Let me know when you find out somebody that's doing it like what we're doing. Like
I
the way we're doing
mean,
it.
it's been a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, man, thank you guys for tuning in. Alexa, keep up the great work, girl. We're proud of you. Keep doing your
Thank
thing.
you.
And we'll catch you here next week on Connected. Peace. Is out.
As I was told.
Well, play a series.
I'm gonna dance.